Julian Sayin may be the frontrunner in Ohio State's QB battle, but don't count out Lincoln Kienholz. He has everything it takes to shake things up.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 this year, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. During today's show, we'll discuss why Ohio State still needs to snag a quarterback from the portal, as well as if an Ohio State quarterback will enter the portal in the spring. But before we get to any of that, Julian Sayin may be the frontrunner in Ohio State's QB battle, but don't count out Lincoln Kienholz. He has everything it takes to shake things up. And that is something that I think everyone might need to be reminded about when it comes to this quarterback battle. Julian Sayin has the goods. He was a more highly sought after quarterback out of high school. There's a reason why Sayin transferred to Ohio State after leaving Alabama. Lincoln Kienholz is a gamer. He is a fighter. He is a fierce competitor. And I think Lincoln Kienholz getting the ability for the first time in his life to focus on being a quarterback. He's no longer a three-sport athlete like he was in high school. He does know Ryan Day and Ryan Day's system better than Julian Sayin does based off the experience that Kienholz has in Columbus. And I think there are some things that the competitor Kienholz has in his bag that allow him to have the ability to shake up Ohio State's QB battle. And I think shaking things up is exactly what Ohio State needs right now. You can't go into this offseason and try to just pencil in and say, oh, it's your job. This isn't like last year where everybody and their mama knew that Will Howard coming into Ohio State was going to be Ohio State's QB1. Now we had to get the title handed over to him in the fall, where I think it was week 2 or maybe week 3 of fall camp where he officially was named QB1. But even before he got handed that title, Jeremiah Smith made a comment during a presser after practice and said and called and referred to Will Howard as my quarterback. And I know maybe to some freshmen saying that's my quarterback might just be something where he's the oldest guy in the room. He transferred in, and with him transferring in, we kind of just going to give him the title. So, we can refer to him as my quarterback. Jeremiah Smith isn't normal. We got to see a full season of Jeremiah Smith and at full display on Front Street and realize everything people said about him when he was in high school is true. And he's probably even more mature than a lot of us thought that he was. And so when he referred to him as my quarterback, I remembered that. And I said, I'm going to take mental note of that statement because I think that speaks volumes about Will Howard, the quarterback. Here's something else that speaks volumes about Ohio State's quarterbacks. Jeremiah Smith was being sought after by a lot of schools around the country. Some say he was offered $4.5 million to enter the portal to go somewhere else. There was a report, someone sent me a message that they heard that Jeremiah Smith may have been offered more than $4.5 million. Carnell Tate was trying to be snagged by Oregon and other schools around the country. And that's something for those guys to deal with in the offseason that they're going to have to deal with every year. But when they make the decision to not go outside of Columbus, Ohio, where they could have gone somewhere that had better weather, where they could have gone somewhere that had a more experienced quarterback, they're staying in Columbus, Ohio. That not only speaks about the development and their ability to be developed by Brian Hartline and to stay in Ohio State's offense, but it also says a lot about the quarterbacks at Ohio State. And I know Julian Sayin is the guy on everyone's mind that say, oh, he has it in the bag. Something tells me that Lincoln Kienholz, who was trying to make a decision if he is going to stay at Ohio State for another 12 months, because I think there's a realistic opportunity that Kienholz could enter the portal in the spring. I think Kienholz sees that and realizes I can raise my own level of play. I can do what's needed to be a better Buckeye quarterback, along while realizing Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and even Bryson Rogers a year ago, those guys that were either entering the portal or were trying to be pulled into the portal, those guys stuck around for a reason. There's a belief that Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and Bryson Rogers have in the quarterbacks at Ohio State. And I think moving forward, don't just hand the title over to somebody. Look at each candidate separately. We did this up back when it was Devin Brown, I believe it was Kyle McCord, CJ Stroud, and Jack Mill III. We went back then and kind of went quarterback by quarterback and discussed the things each quarterback does well, some of the issues that they have. I think Lincoln Kienholz's athleticism is one of the biggest reasons that he can win this battle. Not only his athleticism, but another thing is the fact that he's working and being a quarterback for 12 months out of the year for the first time in his life, and he's being able to refine his mechanics. He's able to make his mechanics better. He's able to learn things at a quicker rate than he was able to in high school. I mean, think about it. He was a three-sport athlete. I believe he was all-state in all three sports, playing football, basketball, and baseball. He was a summer enrollee because his baseball team in high school had a chance to win the state championship. There are a lot of things about him that make him a fierce competitor that I love. The fact that he played three sports, great. The fact that he was elite at all three sports in high school, great. It's even better. That says a lot about him as the competitor. And I think his ability to connect with players and bring a different type of leadership style and also be a better thrower at times in different ways than maybe Julian Sayin might be. Because I think when it comes to moving on the run and moving around, that might be something Lincoln Kienholz does better than Julian Sayin. I think Julian Sayin has a better arm, being able to have the quicker release and make throws seem effortless. That doesn't mean Lincoln Kienholz is just going to fold over and not try to shake things up because he can. During the spring, we have a few weeks. Wow, January went by kind of slow, but now we're into February. This thing's going to kind of steamroll right into the start of spring practice. We have a few weeks left in front of us before the start of spring practice when Lincoln Kienholz is going to try to do everything he can to win Ohio State's QB battle because he might enter the portal in the spring. He's trying to do what he can to raise his own level of play, to wow the coaches enough to get the belief in the coaches that, hey, don't just look at the younger guy. Look at me too. And I think Ryan Day is going to consider Kienholz. I truly do believe that. But he has to do it. Put in the work, especially during those winter workouts and the workouts during spring practice. Put in that work. Do everything during the team meetings. Watch all the film. Analyze everything. Do what is needed so you, as a quarterback, can not only have a better handle of the offense, but you can have a better command of that huddle. You can have a better command of all the mechanics. You don't have any issues going under center or taking some snaps from shotgun. No matter what the play is called, you're able to do everything. And let's just say, moving forward, that Ohio State tries to do more QB sneaks or QB runs in short yardage situations. Among the two quarterbacks that are still on the roster, that are still trying to be the QB1 in Columbus, Ohio, which one do you think is better in a QB sneak or a quarterback run in short yardage? Or maybe in general? Lincoln Kienholz. So that's already one check mark that he has on a box to try to decide who is a better quarterback. But I am also realizing there's other ways and other boxes for him to check during the offseason over the next few weeks for Ohio State to make sure they pick the right man to be the QB1 at Ohio State in 2025. Will Ohio State have one of the top two quarterbacks into the portal in the spring? We'll tackle that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, y'all, that's the icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Thank y'all for tapping in Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. If you missed our recap of Ohio State's 87-79 loss to Illinois yesterday on the hardwood. Go ahead and check that out on YouTube or wherever you listen to your fine podcast. Had a quick 10 to 12 minute show reacting to that game and discussing if Ohio State will make the NCAA tournament in March, in the spring. Wow, this whole January has thrown me off. What hasn't thrown me off is the reality that there's a possibility that Ohio State may be without one of the top two quarterbacks at the end of spring practice, because it's possible, it's realistic, that Julian Sayin or Lincoln Kienholz will enter the portal at the end of spring. I don't think Tavian St. Clair, while he is a freshman and a newcomer, I don't think Tavian St. Clair is going to enter the portal. I don't. I think if Ryan Day were to end up going to the NFL or get another job, I think you could see Tavian St. Clair maybe going. Chip Kelly, if Chip Kelly takes another job, I don't think any of them are going if that's the only reason why that they enter the portal. However, and that's not a knock against Chip Kelly, I think his guys have a strong tie with Ryan Day, and they'll stick around no matter what. However, I do think the outcome of Ohio State's QB battle, as far as what we get through spring practice and when they have their conversations with the players prior to the portal opening, I believe it opens on April 16th. I think Ryan Day and Chip Kelly and the other offensive coaches are going to have some serious conversations with these guys and saying, here's where you stand. Who's one? Who's two? How close is it? And simply answer all the questions so they understand everything. Similar to what you do at the end of the regular season, you kind of give everyone an update about where they stand currently on the roster, and you kind of have to project to next season. Even though you're still in a current season, you got to project to work on 2025 or the next year that's coming up, which is so stupid that the college football people in charge make these dumb decisions that ultimately don't make any sense. And this is another one. Now, the spring portal, being in the spring, I understand it. It'll make a whole lot more sense in February, so you're not going through spring practice and then all of a sudden, a guy who we thought was going to be a backup running back goes to the portal because he's not starting. That would be so bad and so harsh. But that's reality, man. That's actually what's going to be happening. I could see Lincoln Kienholz going to the portal at the end of spring if those conversations he has with those offensive coaches put him in a spot where he realizes he's not only not going to be QB1 this year, because I think the battle will not be officially won until the fall, but also that if he doesn't win it this year, he's probably not going to be QB1 next year in 2026, where Julian Sayin has to play college football for a couple years. And if you start at Ohio State in 1 year, you're probably not going to go to the portal in the following year after getting your first year of starting at Ohio State, especially at such a position as being starting quarterback. What Kyle McCord did at the end of the 2023 regular season was so rare. I don't believe we've ever seen an Ohio State quarterback hit the portal at the end of the regular season when that was right after they started 12 games as an Ohio State quarterback. I think he's the only one. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know that people will hop in the comments say, no, there's this guy, there's that. It's possible, but I truly don't think there's a guy out there that's into the portal after starting his first year at Ohio State. I understand why Kyle McCord did it. He went 11-1. He went on the road to Notre Dame and won the hostile environment. He did a lot of good things during his first year. I think Kyle McCord in year 2 at Ohio State, he would have been, first off, Syracuse offense was catered around him. They had a lot of talent. They're also in the ACC. The competition is not near what he faced in the Big Ten in the 2023 season. But if he were here, and he's throwing to Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis-Emeka Buka, G. Scott Jr., Trevion Henderson, Quinshawn Judkins, Will Merrick, and others. There were other receivers that played at Ohio State with Will Howard on the field. I think his numbers and his play would have been better. I think Kyle McCord's play would have been really, really good. I don't think he would have been the guy that would have been a coward or just would have folded or wouldn't have been able to get better in year 2 in Columbus, Ohio as a starting quarterback. I think he would have 100%. And I think the possibility of saying going to the portal after starting this year is just so rare that I wouldn't even say it's going to happen. Kienholz is the only guy that I could see that's currently in the QB room among the top three. I'm not even talking walk-ons right now. Among the top three that would go to the portal. But truly, I think it all depends on his performance, Sayin's performance, how much weight those guys put on, their ability to connect with their teammates, the leadership that they have when they're in the huddle, and just simply in the locker room in general. There's so many factors that are probably even off the football field that impact how this quarterback battle is going to go. Yes, we see the things that happen on the field, and they're going to track every throw and every step to make sure that it's either a plus or a minus. And if it's a minus, how can you get better? If it's a plus, what can improve? There's so many things that they're going to do to try to track every single step along the way of this quarterback competition. But part of me also believes if Kienholz goes to the portal, there's an opportunity for him to play in the fall. Now, if you go to the portal in the spring, you're probably not going to start in the fall because you are going to have to do a crash course, almost like maybe speed dating or an all-nighter before a big test people used to do to kind of prepare to make sure that they got all of the studying done before a massive test. I think it would be so hard. I mean, crazy hard for him to hit the portal in the spring, go to a new team. Where could it be? Would it be back near his home? Possibly. Would it be down to the FCS level? That's also possible. I don't think he would go down to the FCS level. I think Kienholz, as he continues to get developed, I think he has the ability to be a power four starter at some school. Now, will it be at a big boy school in college football? I don't know. Will it be at a middle tier like a Syracuse at college football? Maybe. Will it be more of a bottom feeder in a power four conference? That's also a possibility. I am not sure where it would be, but I think Kienholz down the road not only believes he will be a power four starter in college football, I think he will be. I have a lot of belief in him. Even with them coming out of high school, and when I watched this film, I said, "Oh, there's some good stuff there, and there's some areas for him to improve." He's the only one. I'm not even going to sit up here and say that he's going to, but that's it. And when you be looking at a team similar to the Ohio State's running back room that lost their top two guys to the NFL, and another guy that was in that room last year, you lost him to the transfer portal and Sam Williams-Dixon. So you lost three of your top five guys from last year in the RB room, this year's quarterback room. Let's just say Kienholz does go to the portal. You would lose, what would it be, four of your top five? Because Will Howard's gone to the NFL, Devin Brown's at Cal, Air Nolan's at South Carolina, and then Kienholz would be at the portal. You would be left with only one QB from last year's QB room in Julian Sayin. While he is QB3, let me just sit up here and tell you, that's not where Ryan Day wants to be. That's not the situation he wants to walk into every day when he goes into work, realizing, man, last year's QB room was led by Will Howard. Four of the five guys that were in that room had opportunities to play. I think all four of those guys that had opportunities to play in the regular season played in the Tennessee games. They are able to play in the playoff as well. There's a lot of stuff with the QB room that allowed them to have opportunities that you probably wouldn't have at other schools. And then Ryan Day walks in and realizes it's just Julian Sayin. And now Julian Sayin's kind of like that Will Smith meme when he walks into the house at the end of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, I believe was the final episode of that series, and he's looking around the living room, and ain't nobody there. That'd be weird, man. That'd be very, very weird, which is the big reason why Ohio State needs to pursue a quarterback in the portal. We'll continue this conversation after the break. Thank y'all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. And one thing we're still doing here on the show is filtering in extra shows right here on Locked On Buckeyes. This is a show that comes at you every Monday through Friday, but every now and then we'll drop a bonus episode reacting to Justin Fry going to the Arizona Cardinals or an Ohio State basketball game like we did on Sunday afternoon. And you want to subscribe to the show on YouTube or wherever you get your fine podcasts so you stay up to date. Also, make sure you hit the notification button so you are alerted anytime a new show goes live. There's some that you may get two on a day, like you got on Sunday. You might get one extra, like you will every single Thursday. Not sure how many extra shows you'll get, but if you hit that bell and if you're subscribed, you will get alerted every time a new show goes live. One thing about new shows going live is you might get one when Ohio State snags a quarterback from the transfer portal, because I still think there's a realistic opportunity for Ohio State to do so. Not only an opportunity, I think the Buckeyes need to. In the spring portal, when that thing opens up, there will be more quarterbacks into the transfer portal. Maybe from power schools. I mean, when I say power schools, I mean schools like Ohio State, Oklahoma, Alabama, Texas, schools like that, the big power schools in the sport. Those schools could have a quarterback, one or two, into the portal. There are also going to be schools all around the country, from the Power 4 level to the G5 level to maybe even an FBS independent school that has a quarterback go to the transfer portal. And I think that's a time period for Ohio State to tackle the portal hard and try to get a quarterback into Columbus, Ohio, that brings some experience. Because right now, Ohio State's QB room has no experience. I mean, limited experience. When you think about starting experience and guys that have thrown the ball 100, maybe 200 times in their careers in college football, Ohio State's QB room doesn't have that. Julian is the most experienced quarterback on the team. He hasn't started a game. He was QB3, and he's only been at Ohio State for one season. Kienholz, been there longer, got some extended playing time. Well, he actually had some more extended playing time against Missouri in the Cotton Bowl. But even this past year, he was QB4, and that experience at the Cotton Bowl was before Sayin got on campus. I went back and looked at the quarterbacks in the portal right now, and I didn't see anybody that has the experience that is needed to fill Ohio State's QB room, because the quarterback room is currently incomplete. At the top of the list of the four guys that are currently in the transfer portal is Jaden Rashada. And last I heard, Rashada was not going to pick a school to go to until the spring. I think that's kind of silly. I also don't think that's the kind of quarterback Ryan Day is trying to pull into Columbus, Ohio right now. I truly don't. That veteran leadership that Will Howard brought to Ohio State, that Tristan Gebbia brought to Ohio State, not as a guy that's going to play a lot, but a guy that can help lead the room and can help the now younger quarterbacks than him and McCord and Devin Brown kind of get up to speed and learn. He can learn from them to kind of figure out, hey, this is what's needed to be a quarterback in college football. You need some leadership in this room. No matter if Chip Kelly is the OC or Ohio State rehires Kevin Wilson or whoever might come in to be the OC or to replace Justin Fry in Ohio State's assistant coaching staff, the next quarterback coach or the coach that's currently there, they're going to have a lot of work to do. If they come into the office on a Monday or a Tuesday or any day of the week and realize I'm working with guys that are inexperienced, and if someone happens to get hurt, which you never want someone to get hurt, but it's the reality. I mean, even Will Howard got dinged up a few times this year. We might be in trouble. This past year, we saw Ryan Day do something similar to what he did during Justin Fields' first year. Justin Fields was always going to be the guy to win the job. Always. And so while Ryan Day did go out there and bring in a quarterback with experience, he also coached Justin Fields in a way to realize, hey, we got to do certain things with you and your body to make sure you last the entire season. Now, back then, there was 12 regular season games, the Big Ten Conference Championship game that Ohio State played in, and then there were only, at max, 2 playoff games. It's unlike the possibility of playing 16 or 17 games where you want to save a player's body for the long, grueling postseason run that Ohio State wants to go through every single year. In that year, it was Justin Fields or nothing. And luckily, that worked out. But in 2019, and I think even 2023, Ryan Day did something very, very smart. Brought in Chugunov, former Kentucky quarterback. Last year, there was Tristan Gebbia. There was another guy in 2019 Ryan Day brought in that I can't think of his name. But Ryan Day, I think, in 2019, did something similar with Will Howard this year. Try to make decisions to save the player's body. Did it with C.J. Stroud too, because C.J. Stroud didn't really move around the pocket in the way that we thought he was able to until the Georgia game, and everyone's like, "Where has this C.J. Stroud been?" I think that was because of Ryan Day's leadership and Ryan Day's coaching, and Ryan Day realizing we can't lose you. Ryan Day also knows the importance of experience in a room. We'll talk more about incomplete rooms and experience that is needed in some rooms probably tomorrow. So I think there's another position room at Ohio State that's incomplete that can be benefited by Ohio State pursuing certain players in the transfer portal. It's unfortunate that these two positions that I'm thinking about, quarterback and the other one, I can't let the cat out of the bag yet. They'll have to wait till the spring to do it. So whoever you bring in, they're not going to start. I don't see a scenario where Ohio State goes into the spring to bring a guy in that is going to start. I don't. Now, if there is a Caleb Downs type of player that entered the portal in the spring, that transferred to Ohio State, that's completely different. that's a whole, like I think the Jeremiah Smith type pass rusher that entered the portal in the spring that comes to Ohio State, that's completely different. That's a different conversation. Because most of the guys that enter the portal in the spring, they're not the guys that are going to be immediate impact players. They're not. I mean, I think Ohio State could have 8 to 10 guys into the portal in the spring. I mean, the ability that they had to only have, 10 to 12 guys into the portal in the first window, when the window was extended because Ohio State went to the national championship. Not, I think, only a few players into the portal between the Natty on the 20th of January until the 25th of January. Only a few players into the portal at that time. That was a huge luxury. But as these position battles ramp up in spring practice, I guarantee there might be a receiver, there might be a tight end, there might be a guy in the secondary that says, look, I am going to the portal. I've loved Ohio State. The path for me to start right now is there, but I don't think that path right now for me to start this year is a realistic path. So I'm going to the portal. I think that's when Ohio State goes out there and gets a quarterback from the portal because they need to. This room currently is incomplete. And it would be really odd for Ohio State to roll into 2025 with Sayin, Kienholz, and St. Clair as the top 3 quarterbacks in that room. That's very little experience. Those are guys that are talented, but I think the experience that they're lacking and the lack of leadership that is in that room for a guy that's played college football for 3 or 4 years is something Ohio State could acquire from the portal. What that thing opens up at the end of spring practice. Thank y'all for tapping in Locked On Buckeyes here on this Monday. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317 at gmail.com. Buckeye fans, we're out of here on a Monday. We'll see you next time.